What made you hate school? Write in the comments what you think about this. Enjoy the show. Story 1. Authority in a Catholic school. I'm left-handed and was forced to write with my right hand when I started school. They stopped that about 3 years in, but I was already writing, badly, with my right hand. I do everything else left-handed. It runs in the family. I got a metal ruler smacked on my knuckles between the ages of 4 and 7 if I tried to use my left hand. My parents had already taught me how to write before I started school, so I had to relearn because of those cunt nuns. Was so happy when they were told by the government they had no place in schools. Story 2. The students. I was bullied and had no friends, so I skipped school for 3 years. During last summer, I was told by a professional that I was 4 years behind in social and emotional development. No shit, I didn't have friends. I started going to school again this year, and my classmates are all 3 years younger than me, and I get along with everyone, and my friends from class are the only reason I go to school. At Wednesdays, I could theoretically leave 2 hours before everyone else because I have already completed the course for those 2 last hours. But I stay in the class to chat with friends. Weekends are the hardest because our interests don't match much outside of school, and I'm usually home cleaning, doing schoolwork, or going to the gym in the weekends. Story 3. The bullying. The fact that they'd bury your case or punish you because it's easier to punish one pupil than it is to punish 7 or 8 that were the actual problem. I got in a lot of trouble for beating up people because the school would sweep their problems under the rug and punish the one person making noise. That being me or another person getting bullied. It just looked better on reports for them to seem like they didn't have problems. My high school was so inept I'd get detention and just leave before I was supposed to go. And because the facilities never talked to each other about it, they'd assume I'd done the time. I had to beat up my sister's bullies because they wouldn't do anything. I feel like I've written this before. Well. All in all, fuck Fraserburg Academy. Story 4. I was at an American school system a couple years ago. Then in my last 2 years, my mom moved to a better school so I can get better education. But it was English things with A-levels and stuff, and I had the option to move back a year, so I could just do GCSEs halfway into the year and just fail, but still experience a bit of GCSEs, but I went straight into A-levels. I probably could have done pretty well, but it put me off to a bad start as people have had years to work on this, and only just learning about the bones in PE theory, which I thought was sports class, my first year in LOL. Schools are a terrible measurement of intelligence. It took me a long time to realize I was intelligent, to stop listening to others and what they think of me. Although my school experience wasn't as fulfilling as I'd hoped it to be, I can learn from it and bring it with me when an opportunity like this happens again. I have bad results and grades after graduating, but next time I won't let an opportunity pass. Story 5. Lack of opportunity and limited alternative pathways. I feel like the high school curriculum and the way it's taught in Australia are not good at all, especially in regards to mathematics. Fuck ATAR. And fuck boring these kids with the same crap for 4 years, then expecting them to cram all of this new crap in 2 years. Also, entry and maintenance requirements at Australian universities are really bureaucratic, whereas at least in the US and UK, there's more flexibility to how you can take courses at universities. Not a lot of support for students with disabilities, either other than a handful of schools. I was lucky to go to schools with good support for kids with disabilities, but many other schools don't have that. Oh, and bullying and violence is a huge issue, and there isn't a lot of support for students experiencing domestic family violence at home. In 1 year alone, there were 63 stabbing at schools in my city. Anyone who thinks that Australia has an amazing education system is delusional. That being said, it isn't great in the US or UK either from what I know. Story 6. Contradictorness of rules, teachers not doing their jobs, idiots in the class, and corruption of school principal who put his wife as a psychologist. Nepotism. I was bullied, and nobody gave a thing about me except my friends. But when I strike back, I was the one to blame. I had math and physics teacher who were stupid and not doing their jobs. I went to class with 19 other people, 15 of them being total lazy idiots who were bullying you for being better than them and being who I am. So a person which doesn't copy everyone. I had a principal who should have been in retirement but stayed because he had allegiance to politics in the town. He also put his wife to be psychologist, and both of them were screaming at me because I fought back when I was bullied. School sucks because nothing works like it should, but at least I learned to fight. Story 7. After the pandemic, my friend turned into a problematic person. I was having fights with him every day and every night. He tries so hard to peak in school. Also, 5th grade was worse for me. Every girl started to talk about wanting boyfriends and makeup while their brains are still in development. I live in Romania, so the school system is also pretty shitty too, but worst of all is my homeroom teacher. My homeroom teacher, he's also my religion teacher, made me hate school so much. He's a creep preying on underage girls, making sexual jokes with girls, and talking to girls only. An ex-friend told me that he made 2 sisters in his lesson kiss. Considering the fact that he's religious, it means that he's homophobic. It's pretty disturbing. Not to mention that he intentionally touches girls' breast. He kind of looks like Mr. Kimura from Azumanga Daioh. Story 8. Putting heart and soul into a project that the teacher writes down a grade for, then throws it in the trash. Case in point, my world history teacher had this group craft projects hard on, like design and build a Aztec pyramid. So we spent 1 week plus a weekend building the damn thing out of cardboard. My buddy gave it a sleek black and red spray paint job. It looked nice, do they? Yep, that's an A. By the way, asterisk, I don't want these asterisk. I thought he would at least have them present to the class, or maybe put the best ones in the library or cafeteria or whatever. Nope. Also, someone mentioned being ass in seat at 7:20 a.m., and I'll add benign homework assignments. Story 9, why I suck at book learning. I don't learn well that way. You show me how to do something once and I'll remember it. So I'm more of a hands-on learner. I got injured and no longer can do physical labor. I want to go to college and become a counselor. It's something I would be able to do at home with virtual appointments. But me not being a book learner is holding me back. I would be taking online college courses since I can't go in and sit for long periods of time. So doing college online, I'm guessing, will be a lot of reading and teaching myself. Story 10. I've read most of the comments and the common point are the teachers, and for me it was the opposite. I'm Spanish. They really wanted and liked to teach, and when they weren't, it was an odd thing. My problem was showing the people that I wasn't going to submit to them, so when they realized that they couldn't control me, they bullied me, boys. And the girls did it too because I was different, aka not an asshole. But what I hated the most were the things they taught us. Most of them only served to vomit on the exam and then forgetting, and some others would only be useful if we chose to study it as a career, still not a problem of the teachers, but the teaching system. And also all the good grades people copying on every exam. I suspect some teachers knew, but they didn't want to do anything because they wanted to study medicine. And then bitching for +0. Story 11. Substitute teachers, they were the worst. They were always retired teachers who were bored or broke. One example is, I had one for my animation class. While I was doing actual work, my teacher said was okay. It had some gore and guns, but they were just stick figures. He saw me putting some of the fight scenes together and said, if you want to play with guns, join the army. Meanwhile, one of my friends was gaming, and he ran up. Of course, we know how to quickly close. He wanted to know what website it was because he loved playing those games. I got scolded again for trying to do actual work. Another one was just a study class that I technically wasn't a part of. That dick found out and had me put in the system so I couldn't leave 45 minutes early. He also said some dumb shit about me leaving my hoodie on, like, you know you're going to be cold when you go outside. Spoiler alert, I am walking 50 feet to a bus. I don't fucking care. Story 12. Having attended over a dozen public schools by the time I graduated, witnessing the factory line process break creative individuals and mentally beating them into submission rather than nurturing their creativity. I saw many brilliant students collapse and surrender under the pressure of disciplinary action who were never the same after they were forced to make a public apology to the class, with tears in their eyes, for their behavior. I feel so bad for these kids who just didn't have the proper guidance to achieve because they were considered disruptive or detrimental to the learning process. Story 13, first grade teacher was a bitch. I was an immature kid, the youngest of 3, and my dad left when I was 6. So home life was rough. My mom was a bully, but she was taking stress out on an easy target that happened to be me. My first grade teacher was similar. I was never a bad kid. I rarely got in trouble for more than daydreaming or not doing anything if my homework. Second grade was good, but I was held back. Teacher liked me and was nice, so it was a good break. Third grade teacher was another bully. Years later, at my first job working at a video store, her daughter came in. I told her that her mom was mean to me. She told her mom and she came in. Her husband was a regular but had a different last name and was the nicest guy ever. She said she heard what I said. I told her that she was mean to me. She asked how, and I told her that she said I was going to be a nobody and a loser. She said, well, look where you work. I told her, I'm 19. What do you expect? It's my first job. Fourth grade, the teacher was a real asshole. He would take me out of class, yell at me until I cried, and march me back in through class, even when I didn't do anything to warrant that type of punishment. Years later, I ran into him at my third job. I was 21. I worked in a lumberyard and was in great shape because of it. I'm already a big, strong guy, but I was toughened by hard labor. I saw him pull into the yard. I saw him from 50 yards away and recognized him right away. I walked up to him with a heart pounding and asked him if I could help. I was standing, staring at him, waiting for him to cross me again. He said, "No, I'm okay. You're new Tizzle, aren't you?" I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "I said and did a lot of things years ago that I regret. I would take them back if I could." An immense weight was lifted off my chest. I never said anything about it, but all I wanted to do was help him. We got through loading up his truck, shook hands, and I haven't ever seen him since. Fifth grade was great because the teacher was a guy that would go off on a story for 30 minutes multiple times a day, just feeding my already wandering mind. And he was a really nice guy too. Sixth grade was 4 teachers that were great to okay. Seventh grade, my mom remarried a guy I met once. We moved 3 hours away. I lost all my friends and went to a new small-town school. I was there until end of 10th grade. Mom's relationship was on a downward spiral the entire time. Home sucked, and school wasn't great either. 10th grade, everything started clicking. Then Mom dropped the bomb. We were moving at the end of the year. Went back to my hometown. My elementary school was small, like 30 in my class. But I came back and instantly had friends. They all grew up slightly different and had their own groups of friends. But I was friends with 30 different people, so I had 30 groups of people to get to know. I ended up having a pretty large and diverse group of friends. It was too late for me to give a shit about school. I ended up being a super senior. I dropped out about a week into my second senior year. A year later, I went and got my GED. I regret not caring about school, but I had nothing behind me pushing me. I don't have any advice on how to push yourself and care about school, but I can tell you that it is worth surviving through it and not letting others dictate your outcome in life. And you have to try to not allow anyone to change who you are without your permission. Good luck to you all out there. I'm pulling for you. Story 14, the general environment. I was sent to a public school, and they packed us in there like sardines. Corridors were cramped. The line for the canteen was so long that if you were held back by even 2 minutes, you might not even get a chance to eat. And the bell. Fuck me. The bell. The most grating sound that still haunts me to this day. You weren't even allowed to be in most places during breaks. The field? Not if it's been raining in the last few days, and this is in the UK. Outside classrooms more than 5 minutes before your next lesson? Nope. Those expensive new buildings they installed justifying the density of students as the reason for installing them? No, they're not for students. I swear, if the UK had the same gun laws as the US, there would have been a shooting there at some point due to how shit everything and everyone generally was. Story 15. Shit teachers. I loved math until freshman year of high school, but after missing a week of school and my math teacher not even giving me 5 minutes of here's what you missed time during ASAP, the time where students could go to their teachers for help, ruined everything for me. We didn't have good math or science, we had one, teachers. This was the main reason I didn't take calculus. Story 16, depression, and having my entire family on my ass for many things in my life. Being the eldest daughter of a family who just lost 2 important people was hard, and no one cared enough to check on me when I was depressed. I skipped my entire first year of high school, and all my grandparents did was yell at me for being a dumb, lazy fuck. I always feel bad for that 13-year-old girl. Story 17. In primary school, I was bullied. This fucking kid was laughing at me because I had protruding teeth. I remember one day when I had removable dental braces and a bunch of kids held me down and opened my mouth so they can see this braces. I never wore it again, and I think because I was insecure. I don't know if this is important, but I'm girl, and I had like 140th centimeters, 4 3/4 7, and underweight. In junior high school, I've met amazing people that I'm friends with till these days. Story 18, I had a teacher who on the one hand knew how to teach and actually was incredibly knowledgeable in her domain, but she was such a bitch. OMG, like she would scream at you, give you bad grades, making fun of you in front of everyone if you didn't attend her private classes, which of course weren't free. Like even if you actually worked hard and spent a lot of time at home preparing for a test, she'd find a way to mock you and give you a bad grade if you weren't one of her sources of income. Like, yeah, I later passed the final exam thanks to her. I got 34 out of 35 points, and I'm thankful for that, but OMG, how can one be such a bitch? Story 19. Didn't get any pocket money, so I could never go out or take part in any events that required even the smallest expense, as well as any school trips that required extra costs were off limits to me. Saved every single cent I got and found, and it didn't make the slightest difference, so I got far less time with my peers. Had just about no free time. There was almost always some homework to be done, and if I couldn't recite the books perfectly, back to studying it was. I missed so many family events, shows, movies because of homework. I got to watch Hunger Games only in early 2023 FFs. I was never allowed anything that would interfere with school. Any trips offered by anyone were denied. Hell, even most not taking place during school time had money for camps but not trips. So now, I have been slightly around my country and two next to it a total of like 4 or 5 times. All three have just about nothing to see or do. Meanwhile, my friends and classmates were going to US, Australia, Egypt, Japan, India, Spain, and wherever, seeing different places and people, while I was stuck home. The pressure to do great because good was not good enough, still didn't do great, barely did okay, and was stressed immensely. All of it did help me get into local uni for free, but other ways, not much point to it. Could have studied more interesting things than most school basic BS subjects. And well, waking up early, no doubt. Story 20. Being considered the weird, quiet kid. You would not believe the amount of mental damage it does to your psyche. Or I guess you would if you were in the same situation. It's unbelievable how much it can make you feel unwanted. Group projects were a nightmare because I struggle with social gatherings and I'm just weird and awkward. I began to analyze everything I said at all times, making sure I looked unapproachable so people wouldn't talk to me. Walking in the hallways, wondering if my walk was weird or I looked too enthusiastic. Standing in the doorway of a classroom looking for the best place to sit that would give me the least trouble. It was so exhausting. And when I did speak, people would give me weird looks all the time, talk about me behind my back when I was really just trying to live. It's unbearable walking home every day thinking to yourself, why did I say that? Why did I do that? Oh my God, I'm such an idiot. You really begin to hate yourself and consider yourself a loser. I'm far from healed from that and my self-esteem is still really low. Story 21. The fact that my classmates were either actively fucking with me or too apathetic or scared to do anything, which effectively translated to having the whole class willing to testify against me in any instance. The fact that my teachers were so completely over it that nothing short of an open wound would get their attention. The fact that I somehow never managed to be in a class with my best friend. The fact that even the shortest trip to the bathroom might result in lost notebooks, calculators, or anything in my desk. For most of elementary and middle school, it was like that. Fortunately, high school meant a complete change in scenery, meeting some great people, NFD schedules that meant never seeing anyone you didn't like for more than an HR. So I finally started enjoying school. More so in college because it was all that, but surrounded by people who were into all the stuff you were. Story 22. How it doesn't focus on everyone's individuality. There are people who are more creative than others. For example, I am creative. I'm a musician and artist. My brain can think very abstract. On the other hand, I don't understand maths for the life of me. But I get punished with it for 13 years and have it 5 hours a week and music class or art only 3 hours. I can't even choose the subjects I'm best in as my extension course. I understand that main subjects like maths and English and stuff need to be taught a lot. But after 8 years or even a bit earlier, I think it's time for reducing the state. Everyone has to fit in and let people decide what they want to learn. Story 23. Everyone in there is a hypocrite. Don't ask me about your grades, I have multiple classes, but then turns around and asks a kid why they don't have their homework. They act like we don't have multiple classes. Or the classic, I can do this homework in 5 minutes, so you should be able to as well. Well, not everyone understands the material to the same degree as you. Plus, you're the teacher. I would hope that you do understand this. I hate how they expect you to be so lenient with their grading, but have no tolerance for late work. Or when participation is a percentage of your grade, you're basically just fighting to get called on because you don't want to fail this class, but then so are other people. They expect us to be content with the fucking school lunches when they literally make you sick. All the drinks have ice blocks and the food is somehow soggy. I especially hate it when they require an item from you and expect you to pay for it, but then you get in trouble if you don't. For example, PE, not everyone can afford it, especially if it's like $20. And we would literally fail if we didn't have our PE clothes. They were so persistent on you only wearing the PE clothes for PE, no sweatpants, no other shirts or pants. Nobody in the school system is lenient, even though they are kids. Same with tardies and everything else. They quite literally expect you to act like a prisoner. You are constantly monitored, and any person who acts differently gets in trouble. We don't even have enough time to leisure or eat. The lines were extremely long all the time. They gave us nothing to look forward to except for those stupid holiday cookies. Yet they expect high morals and relate us to them. No, you are getting paid to be here, and you have a choice. We don't. It's like legally being held captive for 8 hours every day, and then they expect you to have hobbies out of school when they jam your backpack with homework and tests. And when you're finally done, you just want to pass out. It's just an overall exhausting place to be. I've wanted to rant for so long. Story 24. I was homeschooled, along with my 3 brothers, by my amazing mom. And I couldn't thank her enough for that. She probably saved me so much stress that school is, and she's seriously a great teacher. You never realize it at the time. You're a kid. You want to be doing anything other than sitting doing maths and whatnot. So I never appreciated it when I was younger. I never hated it, but I didn't always appreciate it. But looking back now, I couldn't be more grateful for her doing that for all of us for so long on her own. Story 25 teachers. Well, not all of them OFC, but enough to make me despise it. When I was in kindergarten and when it was time to sleep, we all laid on different beds and stuff. But every time there's this one fat-ass teacher that would sit on one of us doing paperwork or whatever. She'll stay there the whole time sitting on your legs. Yes, literally putting her whole damn body weight on your legs, which you can't even move because holy shit, she was heavy. And when I say heavy, I mean heavy. I still remember my legs burning. I don't know why she did that, and I'm still questioning it to this day. Story 26, apologies for bad English. Back then, I went to Christian school that starts 7 o'clock and ends the earliest at 15:30, and sometimes at 16 o'clock if they decide to, but will punish us if we're late even by a min by making us stand in front of the door for about 30 mins, which till today I found counterintuitive since classes still resume regardless. And being young back then, it felt like an hour. My school was also about an hour drive from home, so I had to at least wake up at 5:30 if I were to wake up late. I basically won't be able to eat anything until at least 12:30 when the 15 mins lunch break starts. But a lot of the time, the teachers like to hold us in class until they are satisfied with teaching us, or when the teacher felt like one student wasn't paying enough attention and decided to give the entire class detention. Unsurprisingly, this caused some people to be bullied. After lunch break, they would punish us again if we were late for class, but would argue back if they themselves were late. They also have unwritten school rules that they would actively change whenever they wanted. Say if someone wore something that one teacher decided she didn't like, they would always pull up, "This is the rule now" card, and we can't really complain against it, basically giving them free rein to do as they please. The worst part of it for me that for my graduation from that school, the ceremony was held back for almost a month. Their reasoning for it was so that we can make meaningful memories. It all ended up in a party that the school took no part in helping. Everything down to rental and foods was paid purely out of the students' or their parents' pockets, and the graduation itself was quite a mess. I've had a lot of trauma from my time in that school, and some still haunts me today in college. Story 27. Still in school. But the reason I hate it is that I come home at 3 or 4 p.m. Then I am really tired, but I have to study. We have 6 or 7 subjects in one day, and in every one of the 7 subject, we have at least 5 pages to learn for tomorrow. Well, hell no. I don't have that much energy to study that much after coming home from school. Now I listen in class to not study in home. Story 28. So I moved from Germany to America. My mom's German and dad's an American soldier. The school system in German is very, let's say, challenging during my time. We did everything in fountain pen. Math was done with abacus and other tools, things you don't see in America, and have people rely on calculators, etc. We did math on graph paper. Math was pretty advanced too. I remember in first grade having to memorize a size 9 font full-page poem and recite it back to my teacher under a certain time. Learned cursive in first grade and were only allowed to write in cursive for everything, and it had to be like, perfect. When I got to America, second grade, I didn't speak any English, just a few curse words LOL, and they attempted to hold me back. But I picked it up quick. It was pretty easy. I wasn't allowed to write in cursive or with my fountain pen, use graph paper, or any of the tools I learned with to not make me dependent on a calculator. I already knew how to multiply numbers in first grade, which was easy mode by the time I got to the States. American school was boring, and it wasn't challenging to me. In my later years, I would sleep through most of the class tests, wake up, and get at least a B if I cared. It was just boring. I also moved around a lot. I went to 3 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, and 3 separate high schools in 3 different states. Each school also had different curriculum that were just straight AS. Oh, also the American testing system is AS, multiple choice SMDH. If I ever have kids, I don't want them to go to school in the States, either back in Germany or my wife's country. Story 29, elementary middle school in the early 2000s with undiagnosed ADHD was brutal. I always felt dumb and like such an outcast, when in reality it just wasn't the way that I learned. I'm 30 now and strive to learn about as many things as possible every day. I also manage upwards of 20 roofing jobs at any given time and retain an insane amount of information down to minute details, all because I figured out how my brain learns. Anyway, the modern education system is just a product of the Industrial Revolution and a way to get children to get used to sitting in one spot for 8 hours at a time, 5 days a week. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, like it. Be sure to write comments and share your stories.